Greetings, girls, guys, and everyone with thighs. It is I, your humble lemon goddess, here to present my first YouTube video. I hope everyone is doing great, and if not, I hope this will be at least an amusing distraction. Now, you probably have an idea of what you clicked on from the title or the thumbnail. Animation. The art of the moving picture. The magic of making an audience believe, if just for a second, that a character is alive and has feelings like you or I. Truly masterful animators can even make an audience laugh, or cry, or whatever the correct feeling is supposed to be when you're watching this. Point is, regardless of what the subject is, animation has definitely got to be one of the coolest forms of media. But that shit doesn't just appear overnight. Well, yeah, anyways, who knows what's gonna happen once DALL-E gets plugged into a real-life Skynet and all of us artists gets put out of business. But as of right now, in order to animate traditionally, one first makes thumbnails, and then storyboards, and then animatics, and finally you're actually on your way to finally animating something. You know, I went to school for animation. Or, maybe you don't. In the script I just kind of wrote, insert joke about art degrees here. Either way, in the last couple of years, I've managed to scrounge up some time between working and go to school to make some fandom animatics, and that, honestly, I'm pretty proud of. Or I would say that, except I can never seem to finish one of these. Because of this lack of completion, I never really posted them anywhere, and they just keep piling up in my hard drives, like those screenshots I'm sure we all take of things that we think are cool and useful, but then we always forget about them, and they end up just taking up storage space on your phone, and you never delete them because you know that recipe for pumpkin spice cookies is going to come in handy someday. Sorry for getting off track. It was Halloween when I wrote this script, way to date the video, I know, and pumpkin was on the brain. But besides that point, what I'm here for today is to show off some of these animatics. I know normally animation YouTubers will just throw these types of whips that's a work in progress for those unfamiliar into a compilation and call it a day, which honestly is super valid, especially if it's just to update their viewers. But not only am I extra, I know for a fact that I will never finish these. So I thought I would give it some insight as to what I was thinking when I made them, and just some added commentary in general as a send-off into the abyss. Totally not trying to make this video longer or anything. Ha 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 ha. And if you want to see some actually good animatics, I will link some in the description. The animator Sadist, spelled S-A-D-I-S-T, is probably one of my favorites out there. But there's so many inspiring creators on this site, so check them out. Now that that's out of the way, enjoy the first one of the bunch.
Hung pictures of patron saints up on my wall to remind me that I am a fool. Tell me where I came from, what I will always be, just a spoiled little kid who went to Catholic school. When I'm dead, I won't join their ranks.
Wowee. How was that, huh? Doesn't that just make your eyes want to bleed? Joking. But in any case, if you've ever seen my recent art, you can probably tell this was made quite a while ago. And you would be right. I actually have no discernible date for when I created the images, but I can only imagine it was sometime during the year of our Lord 2018. Now, to half of you, that date conjures up images of serfs working the land because that was like the Middle Ages compared to now, and the other half of you must be rubbing your eyes because 2018, that was just yesterday, wasn't it? No, it wasn't. It was 5 whole years ago, almost 6. Wait, hold on, wait a second. I wrote this script last year. It's been 6 years. Holy shit. Anyways, I know, trust me, my birthday was recently. Oh god, this script is old. I feel so old. Crazy what a global catastrophe will do to the perception of time. Almost like we got dusted. Haha, you know, like in Infinity War.
I don't feel so good.
You're all right.
I don't know what's happening. I don't know. Hey. I don't want to go. I don't want to go, sir. Please. Please, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. Sorry.
Too soon? In any case, the reason I figure it must have been 2018 is because an old friend of mine behooved me to binge all the Marvel movies sometime around teen. I cannot believe I was basically into Marvel for essentially the entire time I was in high school. I guess it was only really the pandemic that threw a wrench in the hype for me. I haven't managed to consume anything Marvel related since Endgame, and that's not necessarily from the lack of quality or want. I guess I just started getting more busy as an adult, among other things. Oh, but just to add, I did see Spider-Man Far From Home and the first season of Loki, but that's neither here nor there. Anyways, as you can probably tell from the animatic, it was about the Marvel character Loki. I was absolutely obsessed with him and the Thor movies back in the day, and I would even roleplay as him sometimes online. I know, shocker, I like the uber popular bad boy. But in my defense, it was never in a fangirly way. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I feel like it's totally fine to swoon or obsess over traditionally quote-unquote hot fictional characters as long as they are, keyword, fictional and not underage. I myself have never been particularly interested in that though. If anything, I've always connected to characters in a more kin sort of way. But that's another video, as that's honestly a whole subculture rabbit hole. Gah. Moving on. I felt like the song, which I was originally planning to animate all of, was very related to him. The feeling of not belonging, yet the entitlement. Mwah, chef's kiss. I just really liked the song in general, that is Saint Bernard by Lincoln, and just the style of almost chanting that he does in the song. I know he put out a new version of it, but the original will always have a special place in my heart. As a fun little side note, I originally tried to watermark all of the frames, but failed because I forgot to do so with some of it, as it was just like a layer I had to turn on. I don't know, I'm dumb, and I'm gonna blame my failing to do so on the fact that I did all the art for this one on my smartphone with my finger. That's probably also why I gave up on it, because it was way too tedious. Also, if I'm to be honest, it was more of a PMV or picture music video than a true animatic, but as you will soon see, it's not the only project I lost interest with. It's actually the theme of this entire video. Who would have guessed from the title? Let's take a look at another example, shall we?
Often I'm upset that I cannot fall in love, but I guess this avoids the stress of falling out of it. Are you tired of me yet? I'm a little sick right now, but I swear when I'm ready I will fly us out of it.
Right. Now, a bit different, huh? Definitely some interesting choices on my part. It definitely features some more movement than the previous animatic, which honestly makes sense, as I can hardly call the first one an animatic. Like I said, it was more akin to a PMV or a picture music video, not to be confused with a pony music video, which is something very different, or even a lyric comic. On the other hand, this animatic actually attempts to showcase some animation, regardless of how paltry it really was. But again, like the previous one, this one was made back when I was in high school, but this time it was a bit further in the timeline. I think it was around the time when the pandemic... Sidebar for a second. I feel the need to mention this in case it comes up, but the reason I mention the pandemic so often is because while I can totally understand that it was a very controversial and complex topic, I don't think I can tell the story of how these pieces came to be without mentioning the unique and particular time in which they were made. Alrighty, back to the video. First started to become a serious thing in terms of when the public shutdowns began to occur. And the reason I think that is because I'm almost certain I made this on Fire Alpaca, which I started experimenting with around April 2020, when my mother and I purchased our first laptop in like 16 years. I convinced her that it was a great time to invest in one because I needed it for my newly adopted Zoom classes. Any Gen Zers, like how relatable I am, please laugh, this is really bad. And digital assignments because the Chromebooks they let us borrow for the rest of the year were kind of ass cheeks. Plus, I had some money saved up from working at Father Jonathan's, that's Papa John's for the unenlightened, so we could share the cost. And so it was, my first computer that wasn't a Dell Inspiron 600M from 2003. Unsurprisingly, I bought another Dell Inspiron, but this time it was a 2-in-1, so I could delay buying a proper art tablet for some time. And honestly, it was pretty epic. Do people still say epic, unironically? And I finally got Minecraft too, so that was a plus. Regardless, I gotta say, drawing with a stylus on a tablet really changed the way I could draw, even if I didn't have proper editing software yet. On top of that, Fire Alpaca was totally free, and I gotta shout out to my friend Alan, aka Tolden Tops, for introducing me to the software, because it was fantastic. Especially when I was just starting out. With that being said, I had just purchased a subscription to Netflix, so I managed to catch She-Ra and the Princesses of Power right as the final season was released. I binge watched it and immediately fell in love with the characters and premise. I know to some that this was just pandering to the LGBTs, and the neurodivergent audiences, especially with some of the controversy that followed. But despite that, it really does hold a special place in my heart. I think it was one of the first times I got to see a complex lovers to enemies dynamic take place between a lesbian couple on an animated series, and spoilers, Adora and Catra's penultimate kiss on the screen made me cry a little bit. It made me feel seen as a queer person, and regardless of ulterior motives of Netflix producers and such, it was special to me, as I'm sure it was to a bunch of other people. So I wanted to create an animatic showcasing that complicated and oftentimes messy relationship using a song that I think is equally complex. The song was Cut My Hair by Monica. Monica? Forgive me if I pronounced that wrong, I'm so sorry. For those that are familiar with the song, before you get out the pitchforks for me omitting the featuring Cavetown part, it is because I'm going to talk about that anyways. So don't put your wagons before your horses. But yeah, I had no idea who Cavetown was when I first found the song, and it made for a very funny conversation with a friend of mine when they mentioned some lyrics of the song that I didn't recall, and after doing some research, I found out the song lyrics in Cut My Hair came from Home. That is the name of the song, Home by Cavetown. Or technically, This Is Home, as Home is the reboot of the original song. And when I say to this day I still break down to that song, I really mean it. It is so beautiful and tragic, and if you've not heard either This Is Home or Home yet, please do. Especially if you're trans, you need to hear this song. It hurts in all the right ways. Now, I'm not an audiophile or anything, but yes, I would definitely lick the toes of this song. That's how good it is. But despite all my praise for the original song, you should probably notice that I used the remix by Monica, and that's so true. Partly because it hits different, being that it was the first version I was exposed to, and partially because how the beats are so pronounced in that version. But in the end, I stuck with Cut My Hair over Home because it felt easier to make an animatic out of. There was so much inspiration to draw from. Every fandom used the song in some way back then, and I didn't want to miss out. Another reason I wanted to make this animatic was also because at the time I couldn't find a lot of animation content for SPOP, so I wanted to make my own. And honestly, it's luck of the draw whether your favorite fandom summons the animators from the floorboards or cracking the walls. Not every fandom is going to be the next Warrior Cats or Dream SMP that has more artistic expression than the MoMA. At the very least, look at that quantity. Woo-wee! I just, of course, as I am, or at the very least was, in both of those fandoms, so don't at me for any shade I throw. Wow, look at the time! I think it's time to move on to the next one already.
Hey, what about the lonely little girl?
I'm
what
sorry.
about her monsters who prevailed? You never came to save my world. What about us?
Okay, so that one was pretty short, huh? And on top of that, if you're a follower of mine on Instagram, you probably know that I already posted this one on there. I actually made it for a class when I was still going to school for animation, and it was my final for my storyboarding class. The thing about it was that originally it was meant to be far longer, but because I had so many animation finals due, I only ended up adapting one verse from a much longer set of storyboards into this animatic. If I can still find them, I'll definitely be putting them up on screen, but in any case, as you can probably guess, it was so embarrassing having to explain what was the concept for this exactly to my professor at the time. In the early stages, while we presented what we had to our classes, I basically had to speedrun an improv explanation that A, this was based off of a Minecraft roleplay done by Twitch streamers, and B, the complex brotherly dynamic between TommyInnit and Technoblade that was falling apart because Tommy had essentially betrayed Techno in the plot because he had sided with his best friend Tubbo in the end, despite everything his pseudo-brother did for him because he didn't want his home to be destroyed. I know. If you were not an avid watcher of the Dream SMP back in 2020, 2021, none of this makes any sense out of context, but trust me, I'm not crazy. Also, I just cannot speak about the Dream SMP and Technoblade without also mentioning, for those that don't know, that Techno was a very notable Minecraft YouTuber that started uploading on the site all the way back in 2013, but I only found out about his stuff because my bestie told me his content was good, much more recently, circa 2020. This is gonna make me sound like a fake fan, but I think the first time I ever really watched his videos was when him and Dream Was Taken, now more commonly known as Dream, had their 1v1 against each other to see who was the quote-unquote best PvPer in Minecraft. I'll link the video below in case for some reason you missed this event, but since then I was a huge fan. This became especially true after he joined the Dream SMP. Now, I'm not sure exactly how much I should explain for the sake of this video, but if for some reason you do not know what that means, basically Dream and his friends made a survival multiplayer server in Minecraft, which was cool and all, but one day this kid known as TommyInnit, or more simply Tommy, asked if he could join too since he was a fan. Now bear in mind though, he wasn't a nobody, especially after Wilbur's Earth SMP from the year prior, and while Dream said no at first, Tommy did eventually get in and end up inviting his own friends and fellow content creators in too. Somehow, inexplicably, in this perfect storm of personalities and world situation, everyone came together with the help of Wilbur's crackhead writing to write a whole-ass plot. This was very popular, if you can imagine. If you know, you know. It spanned 5 seasons and had many, many arcs. Of course, for some reason, Dream later retconned the fan coin seasons because he wanted to do his own, but we all know how that went. Anyways, the Sleepy Boys Inc., aka Tommy, Wilbur, Techno, and Filza, were always my favorite group in all of this, and so you'll probably notice that much of my art in this time period was based on their characters. Tragically, I must mention, however, that Technoblade, also known as Alex, to those who knew him in real life, would pass away due to complications in his fight with cancer in June of 2022. It was far too early to say goodbye to him, but he is 1000% forever memorialized by those he touched in his humor and his unending encouragement. I have so much more I could say about that man, or even this animatic, but I think I will end this section here, because I think his contributions to the format and his friendship with those around him, including Tommy, who is his unfaltering friend through all of it, speaks well enough as to why I would want to make something like this. What more can I say? Sorry for leaving that on a bit of a downer. But let's step into the last animatic I have for you all today.
Call me again, drunk in your Benz, driving home under the influence. You scared me to death, but I'm wasting my breath, 'cause you only listen to your fucking breath.
Alright, so originally this section was very different, but I decided to cut this section entirely for a couple reasons. Reason 1 was because this video was getting rather long, so I'll keep this brief. But reason 2 was because of the things the content creator Will Gold, also known as Wilbur, has admitted to doing in the time since the creation of the original script. So instead of breaking down my thought process while making this animatic like I did with the others, I will just shout out the creator Shubble, or Shelby, as she's sometimes known, who brought this to the community's attention. And I'll also link her VOD in the description where she talks about it in more detail and what happened to her. Usually I like to separate the characters people play and their creators, but this is a can of worms I'd rather not like to unbox in this video, especially with such sensitive content. As an outsider/nobody, I just wanted to say I'm really sorry to Shubble and to everyone else who was betrayed by Will and his responses to the situation. Thank you for understanding. Well, that's all I have to share for today. Sorry for ending it on such a low note again. It's just unfortunate, honestly, that all these projects have some sort of underlying conflict, let's say, attached to them. But regardless, let me know what you thought about these projects, whether my pasted music is shit, or hell, rant about how bad the Dream SMP was. Any comments or thought are appreciated here. And let me know what you want to see from me. I have so many whips, to be honest. I don't finish anything, and it makes me sad. But taking the time to roast my own work was really therapeutic in a way. In any case, thank you for watching. Please click that like button just so I know you liked it. And if you want to support me more, a sub would always be appreciated. And I also showcase my art on Instagram at Declo_the_lemon. That'll probably be on the screen anyways. But until next time, I hope you stay sour and not sweet. Bye!